Hello and welcome back to El Pozo, the Primera RFEF show. It is Christmas week here on the podcast, and some teams in Primera Federacion received an early Christmas present, didn't they, Liam, in the form of a massive 3 puntos at this weekend as we've played through Jornada 17. We're going to look back over all 20 games from this weekend as we head into the winter break, the end of 2025, and I'm once again delighted to be joined by Liam Bambridge, my co-host.
Yeah, pleasure as always to be here. I thought you were going to refer to the financial windfall that a few of them received as well. That was quite a nice big gift, wasn't it? Probably more than 3 points in some cases. I think both Deportivo Guadalajara and Talavera did extremely well out of their Copa del Rey ties. And as expected, all 5 Primera Federacion sides didn't make it through in that competition. But you have to say that they put a hell of a fight, didn't they? All of them, without exception, against the big boys.
Yeah, none of them disgrace themselves is the way that I would describe it, Liam. They all put in very valiant performances, and some of them who are at the wrong end of the table right now went up against the boys at the very top end of the La Liga table. And to be honest, let's look at that case in Talavera, for example. You couldn't tell, Liam. You couldn't really tell that there was massive gapes in between them. And the same could be said at Nueva Condamina, where you were on Thursday evening with Russ Pierce. You went to watch Real Murcia take on Real Betis. And again, I think the scoreline flattered the away side, didn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's important to mention here, Nick, that the La Liga sides put out strong starting 11s, didn't they? I mean, Mbappe played for Real Madrid. Lamine Yamal played for Barcelona in Pedro Escartin. It took them a very long time, Barcelona, to break down Deportivo Guadalajara. Real Madrid only beat Talavera 3-2. Real Sociedad needed a last-minute win to knock out Aldense. And Orense, of course, took Athletic Club to extra time. So those 4 results are brilliant. You're right, I did go to the 5th game on the Thursday night between Real Murcia and Real Betis. And you're absolutely right in saying that, 2-0 certainly flattered the away side. I thought Real Murcia were excellent. It was a brilliant occasion. Record attendance at the Nueva Condamina. I think overall, the 5 Primera Federacion clubs, as well as doing quite well financially out of it in every case. I think, as I say, probably Talavera and Deportivo Guadalajara did best out of it. But 31,000 people at the Nueva Condamina, that's not a bad gate receipts, is it? So a brilliant overall for these clubs. Clearly, they now have to go back to the league and build on that encouraging performance that they all turned in against much better sides. Very, very heartening overall to be able to perform that level. No disgrace, as you say, to lose in each of the 5 instances. The other big news, I suppose, of the last 7 days is all about rumours, isn't it, Nick? Nothing concrete at the moment, but believe it or not, there are another couple of managerial rumours out there, aren't there? Having lost a good few coaches already, there's a couple more that are strongly rumoured to be on their way over this Christmas period.
Absolutely. Our sack percentage will increase furthermore, Liam, in the light of this news. But a surprise to nobody, I suppose. The main one is going to be, it's heavily rumored that Javi Medina is going to be released of his duties as Betis Deportivo manager. It really hasn't worked out for him there. After such a positive season with Antequera last season, reaching the playoff semi-finals, a return to Real Betis as B team, and sort of like maybe being touted as a potential, heir to the main seat at Real Betis. Javi Medina's going to have to start from scratch again here. They're looking to replace him with somebody else internally, I believe, Liam, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's going to be the juvenil coach, isn't he, who's going to take over. Been reported in a number of places, so I suspect this is true. The other one that we've been expecting to have for quite a while, again, this comes from Angel Garcia, who is generally very reliable on these issues. He suggested that the Pablo Álvarez at Alcorcón is going to be moved on, and they're going to look for a new coach there. I mean, I can get that. I feel like when we talk about the Alcorcón later on, it seems like a hard decision to make on the basis of that performance, because I think, I thought they played pretty well, Alcorcón. But overall, suggestion that they've got the 4th biggest budget in Grupo Dos. And so clearly where they are at the moment, which is slightly nearer the bottom 5 than the top 5, is not going to be tolerated, is it?
No, aspirations and reality are not aligned here, are they, Liam? And like you say, we spoke about Alcorcon at the start of the season. In the same breath, we talk about Ibiza as well, who both played each other this weekend. Both of them expected to be much higher up the table, especially in this league that doesn't have a runaway, especially compared to Grupo Uno. They'll be both disappointed to see out 2025 in the two positions just above the relegation zone in 13th and 14th, respectively. So, yes, it doesn't surprise me. But he is a young man, only 31 years old, so I'm sure he'll have plenty more opportunities to redeem his reputation going forward. As we edge into January as well, Liam, obviously this is where the rumour mill really kicks into overdrive, and there's a few players that, Segunda and maybe even La Liga clubs are going to be taking a look at. I know we've mentioned a couple of them already, but the two that really stand out at the moment, one being Alvaro Garcia at Merida, obviously a player who's hot in form, top goal scorer in Grupo Uno as well. He does have a release clause, believed to be around 300,000 euros. But Merida want to get cash, pay us all up front. We don't want installments. We want none of that nonsense, do they?
Yeah, I think that although you can't do anything about it, if the club that wants to buy him does meet that release clause, I think you can stipulate how he wants it to be paid. And yeah, this is a favourite trick, isn't it, of teams from a higher level? They say, well, we'll pay the money, but we'll pay it, in 3 installments. And Merida said, we understand that they're not interested in that, and presumably that means that they can hold firm on that, and you will have to pay it all up front. I think Cordoba, the side that been most strongly linked with, of course, they've taken Fuentes from Tarazona last year. And of course, the problem for Merida is that he is only on a 1-year contract. There are certain conditions that automatically trigger a second year. But, if the player is doing well and wants to go, do you take the money in January? But it's such a big blow to them to lose him that's a really tricky one to call. And a completely different situation with perhaps the other player who's been most linked with Segunda sides. A number of Segunda sides, we understand, have asked about Alex Rubio, who's, of course, at Antequera last year, is now at Villarreal B. His release clause, as we understand it, is €1 million. So no one in Segunda is going to pay that. So then the situation for Villarreal B is, what about if we get a decent offer of somebody who you've mentioned before, Nick? He's not 20, is he? He's one of these ones where you're thinking, what is he doing playing for Villarreal B? Because he's in his mid-20s, as far as I remember, and therefore not really looking to make a step up to the first team. I think it's unlikely. So they might think, well, you know what, let's cash in what we can get for him. We won't get $1 million unless somebody from abroad comes in for him, and they might pay that. So two clubs in difficult situations here, aren't they? One with far more financial might behind them. They may want to hang on to Rubio and not be that bothered about losing out on a decent sale fee. But Merida, even with Brentford behind them, there's going to be a lot of temptation put their way, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. But the one thing I would say about Merida is that they've been here before, obviously, and even in our short times in existence as a podcast, they had Islava last season. They've proven they can carry on, but he will be a massive miss given his goal scoring form this season and given how well they're playing at the moment. And maybe Liam, he believes in the project, and sometimes that can be just as alluring as, going, for example, into a relegation dogfight in the Spanish Segunda as well. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and we'll keep an eye abreast all of the transfer rumours coming out of Primera RF this winter. And I've also looked to maybe put I don't know if I should do this, Liam, but I want to do a bit of on the ones to watch in Primera Federacion as well. But I'm scared we might then be advertising talent and we might lose him for the second half of the season. So we'll see about that one. But should we talk about some football from the weekend? That's always the fun part, isn't it?
Certainly is. Let's start with Arenas Club de Getxo 1, Talavera 2 in Grupo Uno, one of the games you picked out. And the Talavera revolution continues. But I have to say, Nick, I was a little bit disappointed with the crowd for this one. Yes,
obviously Gorbella being quite the fortress for Arenas Club de Getxo this season. Very empty though, especially considering they're going to be leaving soon. And Arenas Club, they have flirted around the relegation zone, but they find themselves mid-table at the moment. You'd like to think that, despite it being midday, despite it being a rainy Sunday just before Christmas in the Basque Country, you'd want to see more fans in the stands there. This club deserve more fans in the stand, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I know that it's a small club. I know that it only holds some, 2,000 or 3,000, I think, even when it's full, isn't it? It's not a big ground. Most of the fans are congregating. In fact, I think all the fans are congregating in the one main stand. But still, and of course the front bit isn't covered, is it? But yeah, I thought it was really, really disappointing. And yeah, I do think it's a great club, and as you say, it's one of the last chances they're going to have to watch their team there. So I would have thought they could put the bad weather to one side and the bad scheduling as well. But yeah, the team started really well, I thought, as you'd expect. It was such a good home record, a really good save from Jaime Gonzalez. I like Jaime Gonzalez in Talavera goal. 27 years old, Nick, his first season in Primera RFEF. I love these situations. I know it's not the pinnacle of everyone's career to arrive at what's still a semi-professional league, but I still think that's brilliant. You've been struggling away, in the lower levels, and this is very close to fully professional football, isn't it? And he's there at last, 27. Really good save to keep out an effort from Álvaro Vázquez, and then essentially slightly against the run of play, Talavera went in front, and a slightly unexpected goal scorer from my perspective.
Yeah, Torremolinos. Let's not ignore the fact that he's only scored twice previously in his 133 appearances, Liam. He's normally a right back, though, to be fair. So, you wouldn't expect a right back to doing too much goal scoring nowadays. So the Trent Alexander-Arnolds of the world have redefined what it means to be a goal scoring right back. But at this level, we like our right backs to be right backs, don't we? But I think, like I say, a great opportunity for him, a great goal as well. And, I think, for me, the big thing about Arenas Club is that when they have gone behind at Gobela, they do tend to react. Though, to be honest, I don't know about you, Liam, I didn't really see it in this game. I felt like, obviously, they got the chance back, but did they really go for Talavera in this one, or did they get a bit of free rein?
Yeah, I think Talavera, we know that since Sandroni's come in, that they've looked better, haven't they? I think Arenas Club, they get a couple of half chances, but then, they go 2-0 down. Di Renzo, a great ball in from the left. He's all on his own at the far post. A comfortable header for him. He hasn't scored in the league forever, but he did score against Real Madrid in the week, so maybe his confidence is... I mean, he scored against Real Madrid, then you probably think, going to a rainy day and get to it, you probably think, well, yeah, this is getting nice and easy, but it's actually the first league goal he scored in nearly 3 months. So, suddenly really up against it here, and his club to get to a 2-0 down at home. You mentioned last week, didn't you, the Ferrero assist up at Alentejo. I don't know if you've seen the goal that NS Club to get scored in this game. Baba, who's one of our favourites, and he's one of those one to watch, isn't he? I mean, I can't help feeling when he looks like Tenerife going up, even at this early stage. I think when Baba goes back there, he must be given a chance, in Segunda, I would think, with Tenerife, because the skill, the assist for this goal that makes it 2-1 late on, he controls on his chest, and as it drops to the floor, he kind of flicks it past the defender. It's just beautiful play, and the cross is a decent one. No one gets to the end of it, and then Lartitegi sort of appears from off camera. It's like all the strikers have missed it, and then the cameraman didn't spot Lartitegi, the substitute, sort of coming on from the right side, and then he tucks it away. And but I mean, Baba, I think, as you say, if you were making a list of ones to watch here, then Baba would certainly be, fairly near the top of it, wouldn't he?
Yeah, instinctive is the way I would describe that, and that's the edge sometimes between players at this level, is that you do have a lot of we've coined this term several times, routine players, whereas you get these little gems of football players who know how to play off the cuff, who know how to play off instinct, and seemingly know where everywhere else is going to be. And Baba certainly fits that category for me. And this is a really great goal that backs up that claim. And from a Rangers club perspective, we've had the ruling now that I don't know which court it's going to be, Liam. I don't know if it's the national court or whether it's a court of arbitration. But basically, they've said Europa, you have to then move grounds in the new year. Arenas Club then have to do that as well by proxy as the other club who are playing on a plastic pitch at the moment. This was an opportunity for them to sort of build up the points before they do leave to the new ground, which I think they'll so desperately need. It's a bit of a missed chance, isn't it, given where Talavera are in the league at the moment, and we're struggling for league form, weren't they?
Yeah, very much so. But let's face it, they won the previous game. They'd given Real Madrid a really good game, the previous game of the league, I should say. So, yeah, in a better place than they were if Arenas Club to get you played in 2 or 3 weeks ago. But, yeah, they're only won. I think they only lost once at home all season, haven't they, up to now, against Tenerife as well, which would have been expected. So, yeah, they would have expected to get something out of this game. Disappointing for them. And, yeah, I think John Arife, when we interviewed him right back in I think it was October, he said, it's really important to get as many points on the board as we can before we have to move. And so he will certainly see this as a missed opportunity. Yeah, but Talavera now just 1 point from safety, having been fairly marooned down the bottom of that particular group. So really encouraging for them over the last few weeks. On to Baracaldo. Baracaldo 0, Pontevedra 1. And for me, Nick, this was another game that might have turned out very differently had it not been from a really good save from the visiting keeper early on.
Yeah, absolutely. Edu Sousa, who is closing on 300 appearances for Pontevedra now, which has got, quite, for this level, considering how we see churn and how we see players move around, is quite impressive for him. He made an excellent stop low down to his right to keep out from Mandiang, which was heading into the bottom corner. And like I say, I think by doing that, he sort of like stopped and stemmed the tide, hasn't he, Liam, of a bit of maybe an onslaught from Baracaldo, obviously the home side there. But it was Alex Compa who scored the only goal of this game, Liam. He basically made it so that the Galicians were heading home with 3 points. Pontevedra now sitting in the thick of the playoff table. I like that Grupo Uno playoff table, Liam. You've got, Pontevedra up there. You've got Real Aviles Industrial up there as well. You've got a few other of these newly promoted sides sort of like flirting around the periphery. The filial is obviously in there is a bad mark, but it's wide open there, isn't it? And this is a great win for Pontevedra.
Yeah, it does feel like Grupo Uno's got one or two more of the promoted sides competing for that top 5. I think the look of Grupo Dos is a little bit more predictable in terms of the top 5 or 6 places. And yeah, tremendous effort back to the wall for 75 minutes. I mean, again, we pointed out before about San Bartolome got injured a few games ago against Real Madrid Castilla, and Baracaldo haven't won since. They're now near the bottom 5 in the playoffs. You don't want to be that dependent on one individual, do you? But to be honest, he is massive to their chances of doing something this season. They need him back as quickly as possible. Conversely, as you said, Pontevedra right now in the thick of the playoff battle, and fair play to them. And yeah, Sousa's a great story. I think he was born just down the road, I think, in Tui, right on the border with Portugal. Had a couple of seasons at Talavera, but has mostly been at Pontevedra since, I think, 12 or 13 years ago. He made his debut. So yeah, great story, and great performance from him in this game. And yeah, really good to see them doing well. Lugo 2, Orense 1 was my final game of the 3. Fortress and Chocaro remains unbreached. But I have to say, Nick, from my perspective, this was not a great performance from Iago Iglesias' side. I thought they were really poor in the first half, and I thought they were lucky to go in level at the break. And they really very nearly gifted Orense the lead early in the second half. A dreadful piece defending the keeper, scurrying back and blocking a shot that was going in. And then in came Ognjen Teofilovic, I think is his name. Tell us a bit more about Ognjen Teofilovic, Nick.
I went for Ojen Teofilovic. I can't even say it. Teofilovic. Ojen. I don't know if it's maybe slightly Dutch. I'm not too sure, but yes, the Serbian teenager who signed, I think it was signed in the summer, actually. He's only played half an hour of Primera RFEF football so far before this game, but he's come onto the pitch and he's scored decisively in their favour, breaching the Orense net twice. I suppose we've got to give a little mention to the scouting network, Lee. You've noted this before when they signed a young former Ghanaian Premier League player via Saudi Arabia last season, a refray, wasn't it, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, absolutely right. I think it's interesting. I mean, I know a lot of it's to do with agents and stuff, but I mean, if you look at Lugo on a map, it's in the middle of nowhere, Nick. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a really interesting sales pitch that they're putting out there, isn't there? This guy, Teofilovic, he scored a stack of goals for Crvena Zvezda, who are mostly known to people as Red Star Belgrade. At their under 19 level. And then let him go, which I thought was a little bit bizarre. I think he got Serbian Cup, 10 minutes of Serbian Cup or something. But, at that point, you would think he could attract some pretty decent offers. And Lugo gave him a 3.5-year deal, which at this level, Nick, is unheard of. I mean, he's only a very young man, but, they must see a lot in him. And I'd be very interested to see what the release clause is, because I wonder if it is quite decent. I wonder if they've looked at him and gone, you know what, we don't have to pay him an awful lot. He's been he's been a Serbian youth team player. It's even a big Serbian club. He's not on a lot of money. We can give him a fairly modest wage and put a fairly decent price on his head in terms of the release clause, and see what he can do for the next 3.5 years. And this is his first break, and he took the goals really well, didn't he? I thought he looked cool as you like. So yeah, really interesting, that one, and that's how it works out for him. And of course, it helps Unzueta a little bit that he's got somebody else out there, maybe, just maybe, who could score some of the goals that he can't score, because you can't leave it all to one striker, can you? Old issue, though, isn't it? I suppose 4-2-3-1, there's only room for one centre forward. So be interesting to see what happens to Teruel going forward. I think Unzueta is the first choice. A very neat finish from Nacho Castillo, but a consolation goal for Orense. And they've not had a great December, have they? And we mentioned that really good cup performance against Athletic Club, but they've only got 1 point out of 9 in the league games, I think. And so they pulled themselves up amazing. They're looking absolutely lost at one stage, right down the bottom, and they went on a charge up the table. They're now back to looking a bit nervously over their shoulder. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go about the 2026. But yeah, things are not looking quite as good as they were at the end of last month. On to Grupo Dos, the biggest game of the weekend, without doubt, wasn't it? I think, Nick. I think it's fair to say.
Yes, absolutely. Certainly on paper, the top billing would have been in Sabadell. Sabadell 2, Atletico Madrileño 0. This is what we wanted to see, wasn't it? An absolute drubbing of Fernando Torres' side. We do have another whinge about the attendance here, though. Like you say, at Sabadell, we've written here, you've got a team that are competing to get promoted back to the Segunda after a long time away, Liam. The season tickets were very, very affordable, cheap as chips, as we said. They're absolutely flying. They're playing, the top side in the league at the moment. Why wouldn't you want to go and watch that?
Yeah, I mean, I know Sabadell is on the fringes of Barcelona. I know it's a similar situation to the one that Girona had when they were in the lower leagues before they became, fans of Man City and got into bed with them and basically catapulted themselves up to be a Champions League side. I remember watching Girona 10, 12 years ago, and their crowd was also very poor. But yeah, I'm disappointed for the players with this, because look, they're doing brilliantly. Amazing performance in this game. I know it's that kind of stadium, but because it's quite open, it looks really, really obvious when it's not very full. But yeah, I mean, come on, this is an evening game. You should be at this one. I think the season was about 95 euros, weren't they? I would have thought they'd have sold quite a few. But maybe that's the problem. If you only pay 95 euros, then, if it's a little bit chilly or it's whatever, that you don't bother. But yeah, I mean, they missed a really good performance, as you say, from Sabadell. They were superb in the first half. They missed a couple of great chances. They had a goal disallowed. And then Koscia, who was at Hércules last season and didn't really look the part for me, hasn't been brilliant so far at Sabadell, but he took this goal really, really well. For me, though, I have to say, the highlight of the first half, this is a game that I was watching with the sound off. And so I saw the ball smashed into the crowd. Then I saw a little bit of a to-do and a little bit of a stoppage in play and a few people surrounding the referee. And then it all started again. Of course, I wasn't listening to the commentators. I didn't know what was going on. I'm not sure the commentators would have known anyway. But clear up exactly what happened here, because it was absolutely... It's not funny, really, is it? But it is. It kind of is. It shouldn't be, but it is. It started off with the spectator saying something to Javi Serrano, the Athletic B midfielder, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. I believe what was said from the spectator was told that there is nothing worse than a baldy with a mullet. And I imagine in Spanish, that's also very, very eloquent in its language. And this is the fun part about Primera Ref reports, isn't it? It's some of the most bonkers things you'll ever hear. And then not too long after that, Ripoll got booked as well for saying, you've got so little left, you might as well shave it all off. Which, again, these aren't jibes which you would say would be approachable for football. These are personal, but very, very, very funny.
Yeah, I thought it was amusing. I suppose if you have a Solana, you're only 22 years old and you're balding on top and you've got this kind of, it is a mullet, actually. You probably don't find it amusing at all. I guess that the report booking, is it for unsportsmanlike behaviour or something like that? But yeah, when I saw that ref's report next day, I was absolutely wetting myself, I have to say.
Imagine being the ref writing that down. Imagine
yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. I mean, they do that. It's called the acta del partido, and they do write it down. I mean, I imagine referees in England do the same. They write it down word for word, don't they? This is what we booked it for. We booked it, and obviously these translations are approximate because we don't, you can, but that is the sense exactly in both those cases what was said. To say this, and I fancy trying to pick out this. I mean, he absolutely smashed it in the crowd surround as well, didn't he? I mean, if that hits the spectator, then I'd be surprised if it'd knock him out. But yeah.
We've spoken about the petulance of B teams, haven't we?
We're kind of
interested in themselves.
Yeah, calm yourself down. It's only a bit of fun. Anyway, back to football. They went 1-up, obviously, thanks to that Koscia goal. And then, of course, Athletic, as you'd expect, they were a good side. They came back and really had a go. But they couldn't find a way past the wall that is Diego Fuoli. Fill us in, Nick, courtesy of Pedro Gonzalez, who is the official statistician for Primera RFEF. I didn't find this out myself. I nicked it from Pedro Gonzalez. Amazing stats on Diego Forlì in 2025, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely mental. And this is the time of year when we do look back on, the year as a whole. Diego Forlì hasn't conceded a goal at home, both for Sabadell and Tarazona since March, Liam, which is absolutely insane, given as well the teams that he's playing for. You'd expect, if he was playing for, one of the sides who were top of the league last season, for example, to be the case. But he was playing for, Tarazona last season, a Sabadell this season, a newly promoted side. That's incredible. 20 clean sheets in this calendar year. He won't be playing in Primera RFEF for much longer, will he?
I can't see it myself. I mean, I really hope he gets up with Sabadell, but surely. I mean, you might have thought last season a bit of a flash in the pan. He had a career year at Tarazona, but he's gone and done it again. There's a couple of saves in this game. There's a save low to his right, which is absolutely outstanding. And he is a very, very good keeper. Perhaps the kick in, perhaps the passing the ball out to his back three or back four isn't quite at the standard, but he's such a good shot stopper. I just think you've got to take a chance on him if you're a Segunda. I mean, there's a lot of good, as you would know, there's a lot of good keepers in Segunda, but I'm sure there's room for Diego Forlì to join one team there. And as I say, I really hope he doesn't have to move. I really hope he can stay there and achieve that particular ambition with Sabadell. And the second Sabadell goal, dreadful. Defending from Athletic B. There's a goal Olympico, isn't it, when they score direct from a corner, but this is not really an Olympic goal at all, is it? It's an awful goal. No. Drilled into the near post. God knows what the defender of the near post is doing. It's Sergio Cortez, who they've said this week will actually leave Sabadell. I think he's been quite a keeper in the past, but it looks like he's not really up to Primera RFEF. But he scored, if this is his last appearance, he scored in this one with considerable assistance from the Athletic B defence. And yeah, they're just 1 point behind Atletico Madrileño now, aren't they, Sabadell? Just incredible. I mean, we hear that they've got one of the lowest budgets in Grupo Dos, and yet look at where they are. Tremendous achievement, and nearly halfway through the season to be in second place. Tremendous.
Yeah, it's incredible, and testament to the job that Ferran Costa is doing as well. We've seen his previous with Andorra at this level. He's got a chance to prove himself once again with Sabadell, and the story's brilliant. And there's a few teams like that. We've spoken about them in Grupo Uno. There's also Europa as well in Grupo Dos that are challenging towards the top in the league after being promoted last season. So this is really, really good, and it's good for the league as well. We've got one runaway leader in Grupo Uno. In Grupo Dos, it's wide open, and the fact that we can rail in at Christmas this Atletico Madrileño side, who need knocking down a peg, by the way, and let's call a spade, is good news for everybody. It blows the league wide open. Two teams that I imagine would love to be involved in this conversation about being top towards the league are both Alcorcón and Ibiza. We spoke about it briefly at the start of the show. This one finished 2-2. We obviously picked this as a game of the week for its notoriety. Two teams who have been in Segunda, two big teams. And quite an exciting game. It was certainly a lot better than we'd expected. I texted you jovially as well, didn't I, saying I would bet my mortgage that this game would finish as a draw. It did. I didn't. I bottled it, but it would have been nice. But I tell you what, it wasn't half bad considering it ended 2-2.
Yeah, you'd be panicky, wouldn't you, in the 94th minute when it was 2-1 to Ibiza, if you bet your mortgage on it, let's put it that way. But yeah, I mean, listen, we've said at the start of the show, we think Alvarez might be out of a job by the time you listen to this, even possibly. There's a huge amount of negativity directed towards him by the fans. I thought they played well in this game. I think it is just a case of expectations, being high. He's been there for 18 months, and there's a sense that he hasn't really moved things along. If they'd lost this one, it'd been a travesty to me. I mean, they played really well in the first half for me. They still went in 1-0 down. An amazing goal from Jose Albert, who's not a goal scorer at all. Just one of those goals, not saying once in a career goal, but it was an amazing strike. He's on loan from Castellón. He's not a striker at all. He's a defender, I think, isn't he? Brilliant goal from him. They get back level. Aparicio does the keeper with the eyes. I quite like it when they do that, tucks away the penalty. But then Sofian, I mean, it's just a bizarre situation. 4-on-2 as Ibiza break in the 88th minute. Sofian gets past and Bebe tucks it in the corner, and you're thinking, right, okay, well, that's it. They're going to lose 2-1, and then Alvarez will probably lose his job straight after the game. And then Bladis pops up in the 95th minute and scores an equaliser, which is absolutely not more than Alcorcon deserved from the 90 minutes. I mean, he does look like a player, doesn't he, Vladis? We've seen him very heavily linked with Cadiz. He may well still go there next summer if Alcorcon don't get up, which is looking unlikely right now. He looks to me like a player that can handle Segunda football. I know it's difficult to say when he hasn't played in it yet, but he does look a class act, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a really good striker, and you've got to look at it from this way. It's been well recorded about sort of like his struggles of getting back into form and back into goal scoring form, considering he missed out on that move during the summer, which happens to a lot of football players. It's not unusual, but I think, like you say, he is ready for it. The only thing I would say is they need him to be maybe a bit more prolific during the games rather than waiting for the 95th minute to grab an equaliser. You'd just love to maybe see him grab a couple more during the match and putting Alcorcon out in front. And I believe, for me, to be fair to Pablo Alvarez, I don't actually think he plays bad football. I think he actually plays quite nice football, but they just can't seem to break teams down that much. And that comes, stems in many ways. One, isn't scoring enough goals with the, pretty talented strike force he's got, not getting the best out of those, but also what's behind him as well. And when you've got the, Primera Federacion's top assist maker ever, don't get me wrong, I know he's getting on a little bit now. He's a little bit slower in the legs potentially, but they just don't seem to be able to make those chances at the minute, Liam, and that is a difference for me. Same with Miguel Alvarez as well. On paper here, you look at the Ibiza squad, and we were talking about budgets. This one's must be up there as second, maybe third in Grupo Dos. How this side are just one place above the relegation zone, and how they are allowing them to continue with this poor drawing and losing. I think it's only one win for Miguel Alvarez since he came in now. I can't see that lasting too much longer. This squad is far too talented and far too expensive to be where they are in the league at the moment. I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah, totally. I think going back to Vladis, I think you're absolutely right. Although they aren't creating a lot, he needs to up his ratio, the chances he needs to take need to be, and he needs to be a lot higher than it is at the moment. That's probably the only thing I have against him in terms of succeeding Segunda. And you're right. I mean, Ibiza, really, they've got some really good players. They really are struggling. Maybe they'll leave me a change over Christmas. Maybe Alvarez will walk away and somebody else will give it a go because, it's not good enough, is it? No. The last of the three Grupo Dos games. No sign of a hangover here from Real Murcia. Real Murcia 3, Europa 1.
Yes, Real Murcia, who obviously, as we said, did themselves no disservice against Real Betis midweek in the Copa del Rey. Amazing first half here, Lee. This is the peak of Colunga ball, isn't it? And really quick out the traps here, almost like they did when they were game against Real Betis. 3-0 up going into the first half at a time, and then Europa did pull one back, and that was as good as it got for Europa, to be fair. I think they were very much also spectators in this match. And I will say as well, given that we saw a record crowd against Real Betis on Thursday evening, I was slightly disappointed to see how quiet it was in the way of a Condamina for this one as well. But, I get that the offering maybe isn't as interesting. 2 points worth mentioning here. The back pass that never was, waving the imaginary FBS card, Liam, furiously, but it can't be appealed for that. I think that's one of the rules. But also, and again, just mentioning 20,000 less people in there, even though it was raining ever so slightly.
Yeah, the situation with Flery, the Europa keeper, is really strange. I've never seen this happen before. It was a back pass that actually clipped off Benito's foot and went to his hands, and that's why he picked it up, because he saw that the Benito had touched it, and of course the referee gave an indirect free kick because he picked up a back pass, and Flery was fuming about it, and he was like, gesturing to the bench, and it's not until he did this that I realised, I did have the commentary for this one, that it's not one of the 4 things you can appeal for, so there was nothing you could do about it, and they couldn't overturn the decision. It was just a mistake, and he was absolutely fuming. Thankfully, Real didn't score from it, but yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's disappointing. We know the expression in Spanish is supercaros, basically bandwagoners, and we always knew, of course, that the crowd was going to drop for the next game. I do get a little bit tired of this kind of open. It was raining. A vast amount of that particular stadium is undercover. I'm sorry, but it is the Spanish way. Crowds are down when the weather's not great. It's just the way it is. They don't go in the rain. They're not used to it. It was a Sunday night at 8:30. Blah blah blah. So yeah, disappointing. Deserved better. I think people saying would have been nearer 15,000, and that's probably fair enough. Probably would get double for Real Betis. points. But yeah, you'd have to hope things would improve, going forward. And then they are in the playoff positions, aren't they? If they can stay there, perhaps we'll be pushing up over 20,000 and more. They did nearly sell out last year against Ceuta, so they can do it. Even the league, they don't need a big cup opposition. But still, one of my favourite bits of this was I was actually talking to, you mentioned Tom Morgan Charles before on our podcast, and I was talking to him about Benito. And we said we both really like him. Pedro Benito. He scored the second goal, lovely little chip over the keeper after a mistake from the Europa defense, and I was like, he's such a clever player. And the next comment for the commentator was el chico más listo de la clase, which means the cleverest boy in the class. So I was like, yeah, I'm feeling really smug now.
And he's having a great season, isn't he? He's having an absolutely brilliant season, and since Colunga has come in, he seems to really empowered and emboldened him. And we all rightly stand behind Flacus and being like, obviously he's a quality striker given what he did last season and what he's done since Colunga came in. But Pedro Benito's he's the personality high here as well. He's not just scoring goals; he's a bit of a shithouse as well, isn't he? Like, he's very, very clever with what he does, and I'm really enjoying watching the number 9 at the moment. So long may he continue with doing that. Shall we have a look at some other results from the weekend, Liam? Because there were plenty of them this week, and including some surprises. We were speaking about Alvaro Garcia's importance to Merida early on. Merida in the last couple of weeks seemingly have just sort of like fallen off a little bit. A return to where they were at the beginning of the season. A great game in the first half here. It finished Merida 2, Bilbao Athletic 3. Obviously, an awful result when we look at that. The visitors went 2-0 up in the first 25 minutes with the keeper playing out on the back. We've spoken about this many, many times. You just don't need to do it at this level. But it was 2-2 by half-time. And, we've mentioned Alvaro Garcia. He didn't actually score in this one, but it was a last-minute winner from a different Garcia, wasn't it, Liam? That meant that Merida have been subject to 2 successive defeats and have really dented their playoff hopes.
Yeah, but I think much better in recent weeks, haven't they? Were on the real struggle at the start of the season. I think lost 5 or 6 in a row, or certainly didn't win 5 or 6 games. They've been much better recently. So it's tough opposition, and they've got, trickery and pace, and this is what happened with the winning goal. Eddie Garcia just burned down the left wing, and the defenders couldn't keep with him and slotted it in the corner. So yeah, disappointing. They were looking like a really good top 5 bet. It's a long season; they're not a long way off it, Merida, and they just need to put this behind them and move on. Algeciras 0, Villarreal B 0. Not a game that will live long in the memory, Nick. To be honest, the only thing I think you can draw from this is that Algeciras haven't conceded at home now for 5 games. They've had 5 successful clean sheets since I think Europa won at the Nuevo Mirador 3-2 back in October. So yeah, a solid performance from them. But yeah, not a classic. Eldense 2, Betis Deportivo 0. Maybe this was the game that finally broke the directiva at Betis and made them think that Javi Medina couldn't carry on any longer. But things continue to go really well, don't they, for Eldense and Claudio Barragan?
Yeah, just 1 defeat in the 9 league games under Claudio Barragan as well. He's really got them playing. But he had only won for 2 of his first 7, so let's caveat that. But this is really important. They've made it difficult to go to Nuevo Pipico Amat, especially the last 2 match days. Dione as well has certainly picked up form since Barragan has come in. He converted penalties in both games, and then in this win included an absolute golazo, Liam, a beautiful one from Macho to win the 3 points here in Elda. They ended the weekend in the playoff positions, which, again, when you look at Eldense, some of the concerns we had about how much talent they lost at the beginning of the season, how they've had to rebuild, and, they don't have the budget, say, that Tenerife and the Racing Club de Ferrol or Cartagena do when they came down. It's actually quite impressive from where they were to where they finished 2025 now, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. They looked a very ordinary side for much of the first couple of months of the season, and he's really galvanised them, Barragan, so fair play to him. Battle of the Filiales next. Celta Fortuna 1, Real Madrid Castilla 0. If I have to choose a winner of this one, it's always going to be Celta Fortuna that I want to win this one. I mean, I'd rather they both lost, of course. But yeah, the Real Madrid Castilla are my least liked Filial by some distance in Primera Federacion. They had a player sent off in this game, which was correct decision. They had a penalty overturned, which was also a good call. They missed a couple of chances late on. Conde should have scored. None of this really was in doubt in terms of what should have happened, but I'm sure they found something to whinge about afterwards. What I want to focus on instead of Real Madrid Castilla's endless whinging is our on loan Ghanaian Premier League teenager, Nick.
Yeah, Bernard Samoa scored out to return to be the winner in the first 10 minutes to make sure that Celta Fortuna kept with pace with Tenerife towards the top. But it's just a story, isn't it? And you can see the riches that, even Real Madrid Castilla have got over, say, a Celta Fortuna, for example. But it's always good to see the Real Madrid B team get a bit of a bloody nose here. And I'm also like you, Liam. As much as we don't like Filiales, I quite do like Celta Fortuna for how they use their B team and how they do have a clear and identified pathway through to the first team as well. It'll be interesting to see whether on loan superstar Bernard Samora will end up in the Celta Vigo first team. He's got quite a lot of competition up top for there, but again, interesting story nonetheless. Marbella's miserable 2025 ended with another defeat, this time at the Banús Football Centre. Marbella 0, Hercules 1. We've only seen a very little sign of improvement for the Costa del Sol club since David Movia took over from Carlos de Lerma in the dugout. But Beto Company, he's just going from strength to strength to strength. That's 5 games in charge, undefeated. And again, Hercules very much in the promotion race picture for me, Liam, just outside the playoffs there. And another goal from Unai Ribeiro, enough to win all 3 points here.
Yeah, he's really good repairer, isn't it? I mean, I think he's an excellent signing for them. We know they've got one of the biggest budgets in Grupo Dos. We know they were massively underperforming under Torrecilla, and I think we also knew that Beto Company would be a really good hire given what he did last season. Andorra took them up, basically, didn't he? Having come in January. Again, he's coming in the middle of this season, and he's made an instant impact. So, yeah, things looking great for Hercules right now. Things looking even better, although slightly more predictably for Tenerife. Tenerife 2, Ponferradina 0. Another routine victory for the Grupo Uno league leaders. It's not pretty to watch, I have to say. I think even quite a few Tenerife fans would share that view, but it's very effective. 2 goals for Gallego in the last quarter of the match, so they did hang off quite a while, Ponfe. First one scrambled in from close range. The second was a penalty in added time. Ponfe really struggling, aren't they? The change of coach there hasn't helped at all.
No, well, when Medinati came in to replace Ferres Tevez, I think to be fair, a few of us went, okay, that seems, a good opportunity. He's obviously been a manager that's been associated with the league above more than he has been with this particular division. It just looks like they're completely bereft of ideas here, Liam. Whatever is happening on the training ground isn't translating onto the football pitch. And if you'd have told me, even with the changes in personnel that Ponfe suffered this summer after losing out by, let's not forget, like a last-minute goal in the playoffs and only 1 goal in the title race against Cultural Leonesa, I would have been absolutely shocked to see them finish in 2025 in the relegation places. This isn't a great call from the directiva at El Torremolinos, is it?
No, I think Estevez was doing all right. It wasn't meeting their expectations, but their squad is weaker than it was. But certainly, as you say, I didn't expect them to be, when we talked about teams pre-season, I think we agreed, didn't we, that they weren't probably going to compete for the top 5 places, but we certainly didn't expect them to be in the bottom 5, and they've got a lot of work to do in 2026. Feels like quite a fractured club at the moment. Supporters very unhappy with the board. And yeah, there really needs to be a reset over the Christmas period. Unionistas 2, Cacereño 2. This is a game that the home team really should have won. And after a not great 2025 overall, I think a lot of fans felt like this was kind of indicative of the calendar year that they've had. But to be fair, Cacereño did play really well in this game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The home side, they missed a pen. Victor Olmedo, who, ex-Yeclano Deportivo, has, been quite in the goal-scoring form this season so far. He misses the penalty. The keeper gets a leg to the spot. It bounces up on the underside of the bar and then is cleared. And then Juan de scored the second goal, his first this season, another ex-Yeclano Deportivo player. But like I say, this is, great play from Cacereño. We've spoken about their struggle in getting goals, and they've gone away to Salamanca here, scored twice, and that'll give them, pretty good, a little bit of optimism, given how hot it is getting down in that Grupo Uno relegation zone. And we've spoken about how, we've got a bit of a runaway leader with Tenerife. Down at the bottom, if it's not Arentero, if it's not Talavera, if it's not Cacereño, they're all winning and picking up points. It's quite impressive to see, the scramble for survival down there.
Certainly is, yeah. It's interesting. Josera scored both goals in this game. He's a centre half. I don't think he's ever scored in Primera Federacion. So that's a pretty impressive contribution from him. I hope he goes on and draws confidence from that. But yeah, I mean, they will feel encouraged by this, having been 1-0 and 2-1 down. But ultimately they are still 4 points from safety because, as you say, teams around them have really gone on a bit of a charge, haven't they? And you need to win games, not draw them, and that's what Catalonia needs to do. The new year, they need to put together a run of 2 or 3 wins back to back to try and really give them a chance of clawing their way out that bottom 5. I would say normally this is one of my favourite results of the weekend. The team it came against makes it a little bit less of my favourite result of the weekend. But I would point out that Teruel left the magnificent Teddy on the bench for the entire 90 minutes. And so they deserve to lose this one, Nick, in my opinion. But what a spectacular remontada from our Tarazona boys. Tarazona 3, Teruel 2.
It is, and they maintain that unbeaten home record this season at the Municipal de Tarazona. A spectacular remontada, Liam. We really, really like this. And I don't know if you saw that Aguero free kick just before half-time. What an absolute beauty to start the remontada as well. It's a goal of real class. And then the decisive moment came when Teruel defender Nico van Rijn got a straight red for a very reckless lunge. He was given his marching orders. And then David Cubillas and Busi smashed home the winner in stoppage time. And it was 3-2 to Tarazona. Again, we cannot tip our hats enough to Tarazona this season, Liam. They are punching well above their weight again, aren't they?
Absolutely, they are. I think Van Rijn will be annoyed with himself for that. He could have put on the brakes a bit. I think it looked worse than it perhaps was because the Tarazona player was sort of catapulted up in the air. But for me, it probably goes under the excessive force heading, doesn't it, really? I couldn't ever seen that being changed. And yeah, great to see Cubillas, who we spoke to on Both on Director a few weeks ago. He very kindly stood up and took responsibility for the English interview and did a great job on it. And delighted to see him on the score sheet. And Busi, yeah, smashed home the winner. You're not wrong there. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, what a brilliant place that is to go and watch a home game at the moment. Tarazona, they were great on their own patch last season as well. I'm very much hoping to get there early in the new year. A goal fest also in El Mauli. I believe you might be going there in the new year as well if all goes to plan. Antequera 4, Gimnastic d'Italiana 2.
Yeah, fingers crossed for my first visit to El Mauli in the new year. 3 goals on the home side in the 45 minutes. I'll definitely take that, Liam, on the 25th of January if it happens. Some pretty hapless defending, uncharacteristically hapless defending from Nasic Tarragona as well. 2 for Siddiqui, 3 goals and assists since Abel Gomez was dismissed. Bibiani back in the goals as well. Good to see him back in the starting 11. And then, yeah, it was pretty much from there where Nasic had to sort of like try and mount a comeback, didn't they? They had Balselga, who I think we spoke last week, actually. He was not really known for his goal-scoring form last season, but this season, he seems to have really found his shooting boots. He made it 3-2 with 25 minutes to go. And then Antequera were down to 10 men when Javi Anton was sent off. Nasic must have fancied their chances then. It smelt a bit of blood, maybe.
Yeah, Baselga did well last season. I think it was Aaron Taylor last season. I think he's got a pretty good record overall. It's sort of the first half of this season, he wasn't really amongst the goals, but certainly picked up recently. And yeah, you would think with 25 minutes to go in this one playing against 10, tails are up, just got a goal, but nothing of it. No, I mean, I think Genève eventually scored a 4th goal in added time to make the game safe for the home side. And I saw a couple of days ago that the club are giving away half-season tickets. Every 5th of January in Spain, there's a cabalgata, which is basically when the 3 kings process through the streets of most towns and on floats and throw sweets to the children of the crowd. And apparently Antequera are going to be throwing half-season tickets to the crowd, which I think is quite cool. I'm guessing probably to the kids, so that, you get a free kids season ticket, but your dad will still need to buy one. But, I think that's quite cool. And certainly the last couple of weeks, they've really started to play some pretty entertaining football. So, if I were in the crowd in Antequera High Street on that 5th of January, I'd be looking to pick up one of those, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a bit disappointed I'm not there on the 5th of January myself to try and grab one for my future game on the 25th or the 24th, hopefully. But yeah, hopefully they'll enjoy those. And King's Day is obviously very, very exciting times. More exciting times appear to be happening in Aradero, Liam. Again, another side that was sort of like seemingly marooned down there in the bottom of Grupo Uno. This is now 3 wins on the spin for Suesta's boys. 2-0 against Osasuna Promesas. A brilliant December from the boys from Acabrelino.
Yeah, indeed. 3 wins out of 3. They're out of the drop zone. I think they've been there since match day 9. So tremendous effort from them. I really liked, I heard an interview with Alvaro Bastida after this. Young man, he's only 21. He's a long way from where he would call home. He was born in Cadiz, I think. He's played for the Cadiz junior sides. He's also played for Mirandilla, the B side at Cadiz. I think he's played for Atlético Sanluqueño as well. So this is his first trip away from Andalusia and to play for a team a mile away up in the northwest of Spain. And he scored a beauty last week, didn't he, in match day 16? But when he was asked about this, when he went, it wasn't quite as I'd planned it. And if you look at it carefully, it is a little bit like a bit of a scoop. I'm not sure he quite means it, but it goes in and it's from the edge of the box. I mean, it's not quite as spectacular as one last week, but it's still a very cool goal from where I'm looking at. What I also thought was cool about this, which I've never heard before. I didn't watch this whole game, but I heard that on the highlights. The Arintero himno, Nick. Oh man, it's a proper. I think it was only written in 2009 or something, and that part of the country is very strong in its Celtic roots. And this sounds very much like a band I used to listen to back in the day called Celtas Cortos, who were very sort of Celtic sounding, and it's very different from your classic sort of himno. And I definitely want to go to O Caballinho now to hear this himno before the game. But yeah, tremendous stuff. And then Safré scored his first ever Primera RFEF goal, and yeah, all going well, and not going so well for Osasuna Promesas, which of course is great news for us, isn't it?
Yeah, who's bothered about that? Who's bothered about that one? Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. And I also echo your sentiments there. I would love to get to is it Espinedo, isn't it? The home
That's
ground
right,
for
yeah.
Arintero. Yeah. So again, we've seen those pictures of the away fans, sort of like they're in there like sardines, really, aren't they? But it's because the space is only 2 people thick. I think that'd be a great experience to have. So hopefully we do get out there in the new year. Some place where we have been is the Pedro Escatin, Guadalajara. This week, they were on the end of not just a defeat to Barcelona, even though a pretty good performance. This one, another good performance, but they'll be sad to lose to Zamora here, won't they? As the Oscar Gano revolution continues for Zamora.
Yeah, brilliant for them. Obviously, 30 points out of the last 15. I think he only got 1 from his first 2 games, and now he's got 13 for the next 5. I thought Guadalajara unlucky this game. They played pretty well, created some good chances, and still got nothing from the game at all. They conceded 2 poor goals from corners. And Josh Farrell scored what turned out to be the winner in the 90th minute. 3 goals and an assist from him in his last 4 starts. The message therefore is, Senor Cano, let him start, because when you do, he does it for you. Stop leaving him on the bench. He's not in the last 2 games, and he's got a goal and assist in his last 2 games. So tremendous stuff. Atlético Sanluqueño will be gutted that they lost this one against Sevilla Atlético, weren't they? 2-1 they lost it. They were 1-0 up in the 13th minute, and they were still leading going to the 95th minute. Absolutely crackers.
Yes, they were. They were held that lead until the 95th minute and then conceded a 100th minute goal. How many of them have we seen this season? And unfortunately had to head away from the Estadio Havas Navas, making the relatively short trip back to San Luca empty-handed. 18-year-old Ibra Sau came off the bench to provide a goal and assist to win it for his team, but they do stay in the bottom 5, Atlético Sanluqueño, as of course do their opponent Sevilla Atlético. One of the games of the week here, Liam, you were actually surprised it didn't make the game of the week list. Real Avilés Industrial 2, Racing Club de Ferrol 1. An absolute cracker in the Roman Suarez Puerta, I think is what the name is, isn't it?
It is indeed. Very good. Yeah, so Racing Club de Ferrol have basically 4 times this season been victims of a remontada. This was another one. What an assist from Arajuan to Álvaro Jiménez to give them the lead in this one. That's, again, right up there, the best assists I've seen all season. Absolutely beautiful. Outside of his right boot, dropped it over the defence on Ran Jiménez and then scored. And then Pereira, who's their first choice keeper at Racing Ferrol, he's quite an experienced keeper. He's been at Racing, so he's a decent keeper. Made a couple of blinding saves, but then Santa Maria scored from almost on the goal line just for half time to make it 1-1. And then he ran 60 yards in the second half and set up super sub Javi Cueto. Really funny one, that Cueto. He's got 6 goals, but he's hardly started this season. He's clearly seen as somebody who's an impact player. And I guess Santa Maria is doing so well for them that maybe he only wants to play one up front. But yeah, tough on Cueto because he's banging in the goals and still can't get a starting berth. Last and perhaps not relatively interesting really compared to what went on before. Cartagena 3, Juventud de Torremolinos 0.
Yes, a wholly expected, by no means routine victory for Cartagena, as you said here. Only scored 13 goals in 16 games prior to this one, but they wheeled out the old warhorse, haven't they? They brought out Alfredo Artuno, and he duly obliged with the opening goal after 11 minutes. A player that we really like as well, Luis Redondo, set that one up and then scored a beauty himself later on. A really good player for this level, but it just needs to be a bit more consistent. He first caught, you're right, Andy Kerr a couple of seasons ago, didn't he, Liam?
Yeah, it was really good there. I remember one of those games you go to, you think, who is that? I think it was against Alcoyano or something like that. It was a random game I went to. And yeah, he disappeared up to Andorra, didn't really work out from there, and kind of come back to Primera Federacion now. And yeah, on his day, he's brilliant, but he is a bit hot and cold, I think. Right, well, we haven't obviously got any games this weekend because it's the Christmas break. I think we're taking next week off, aren't we, Nick? So because we're doing that, I think we probably need to look at the games to watch on the 3rd and 4th of Jan, and I will be in Galicia that weekend, and my 3 games to watch are all in Galicia. Lugo Merida, 12 p.m. Saturday the 3rd. Pontevedra Racing Club de Ferrol, 4:30 Saturday the 3rd. Orense Real Avilés Industrial, 6:45 Saturday the 3rd. Unfortunately, because of the distances between the 3 clubs, I can't get to all 3, but I will definitely be at 2 of the 3. What are you thinking about watching in Grupo Dos that weekend, Nick?
I'll be thinking about how incredibly jealous I am that you're in Galicia, Liam. I did try to make it work as well so I could join you, but I think that Monday back in work proved to be the nail in the coffin on that one, because I believe you've got some good Segunda games to go to as well that weekend, which made it even more tempting. My 3 games to watch, which I might try and get a sneaky extreme day trip out, especially for this first one. Alcorcon against Cartagena, 3:15 on Saturday afternoon, or it might be 4:15 actually, beg my pardon, on Saturday afternoon. Heracles against Sabadell is going to be a massive game on Saturday evening, 9 o'clock at the Jose Rico Perez. And then last but not least, Sunday, dinner time kickoff on the island, Ibiza against El Dense. They're my 3 to watch in Grupo Dos for the first weekend of the new year, Liam.
Yeah, 3 cracking games there as well. Yeah, you've really got to try and do a day trip to Alcorcon. I'm sure they'll look after you well there. And you can get that shirt that I didn't manage to pick up when I was there earlier on in the season.
Just desperate for that shirt.
Yeah, just don't believe them when they say the shirt will be the shop will be open after the game, because it didn't work out that way for me. Make sure you bag it before they kick off, and the guy goes home after his
I'll be wearing it. I'll definitely be wearing it. But yes, plenty of football to look forward to. We're just shy of halfway in the season. This is obviously sometimes the myth when you get to the winter break that you're halfway through the season. We are 3 games shy of the actual halfway mark, of which we'll certainly reach in January. Liam, I obviously want to say thank you to you for joining me on this trip down El Podo for 2025. It's been absolute blinder, especially considering what we picked up at the back end of last season and what we've done this season as well. We are preaching to people that they don't have to just watch La Liga football. There are plenty of brilliant clubs, brilliant stories, brilliant players in the Spanish football pyramid. It's been an absolute blast, and I'm looking forward so much to watching so much more football with you in 2026.
Yeah, the only sadness to me, of course, is the lack of a TV deal, making it so difficult to watch this league in its entirety in terms of 90-minute games. But you do have to say the highlights are superb. I would say they're probably even better than the Segunda highlights in terms of the fact that if there's a lot in a game, they just carry on with the highlights. They will have 5 minutes worth of highlights, so it's really easy to follow what's going on in this league on YouTube. I don't think that you'll get a better 3rd division coverage of any league outside of the UK on YouTube. So please do. That's a brilliant effort from the Federation of Spain to make that level of highlights available to everybody. So if you're not hooked already, and I guess you must be if you're listening to this, then tell other people about it. And if you're thinking this is a very low level, and we do get Spanish people saying to us, "What on earth are you doing a podcast about 3rd division Spanish football?" We're like, well, we love it, and we wouldn't change it for the world. And lots of these players that we're seeing now, we will see higher up the pyramid next season. There's no doubt about this. So it's a great chance to see some up and coming players before they're really famous. So thank you to you, Nick, for everything you've done. It's been a brilliant 8 months, and I can't wait for 2026. But have a brilliant break in the meantime.
Yes, it's going to be spectacular. I'll say gracias to you guys for joining us as always. It's been an absolute pleasure this year. We wish you a very Merry Christmas and Feliz Navidad. Nuevo Años Is that right? Is that
Leave it at that. Leave it
Feliz
at that.
Nuevo Años? Is that Happy New Year? I don't really know.
No, definitely not. But you know, you get the gist anyway, listeners. And yeah, thank you so much. So many people reached out to us this year, both Spanish and English people, to say they enjoy what we're doing, and it means the world to us. So thank you for your support, and we'll see you very soon.
We'll see you later. Feliz Navidad.